So we just learned details about what the specific amount that Joe Biden's asking for the next Pentagon budget, and what he's asking for is $715 billion. Now the Pentagon budget for this year was $700 billion, so he wants even more money than Trump got for the Pentagon last year. And there's a whole lot to say about there's a lot of different angles to get to. This is the first post-COVID Pentagon budget. And so let's be clear about what's in it. As always, this isn't money to defend the country. This is money we use to conduct regime change around the world, like in Syria and in Venezuela and in Iraq and Afghanistan, all these endless occupations that we're doing around the world, funding the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory, the genocide in Yemen. This is what we use our endless Pentagon budget on. And so genocide for profit and genocide for the profit of the defense contractors, to be specific. So this is how the Democratic administration, when the Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they can make this Pentagon budget whatever they want. They can cut it however much they want, redirect funds towards necessary domestic programs in the middle of the worst emergency in U.S. history. But instead, they're going to choose to up the funding for U.S. imperialism. And again, this is happening while we're in the middle of COVID, while we're in the worst economic crisis in history. 60 million people lost their job. Record numbers of unemployed people, permanently unemployed people in this country. 60% of the small businesses that had to close because of COVID are closed permanently. 40 million people are facing eviction. Tens of millions of people have months in back rent. So there are plenty of ways to use this money here at home. Schools are underfunded, understaffed, can't properly open because of COVID. A lot of the students don't have, especially the low-income students, don't have access to the resources to do effective online schools. So there's a bunch of money that needs to be put into the education system. A bunch of money needs to be put into the healthcare system. Again, about a third of the country can't afford basic healthcare right now while we're in the middle of a pandemic. Only major country on the planet that doesn't have some form of single-payer healthcare. So we could be using that money to provide healthcare to citizens in this country. We're not doing that. So that's a whole other angle to get to. And then, of course, I want to talk about the lesser of two evils, because this is what the lesser of two evils get you. For the whole year, the whole 2020, everybody was trying to browbeat us and tell us why we have no choice but to support Joe Biden, vote for Joe Biden, because Trump is so bad, the Republicans are so bad that we just need to vote for the Democrats and really have no option. And if you don't do that, you're a monster. Well, this is what the lesser of two evils get you. We're going to put more money, spend more money on the war machine and funding genocide for profit with the Democrats in control. Just like how we were told, the kids in cages, we got to vote for Joe Biden for the kids in cages. Joe Biden opened up even more concentration camps. He opened concentration camps that Donald Trump closed. He has record numbers of kids detained in these concentration camps, record number of migrants in these concentration camps. He's deported record numbers of people since he's been in office. So the whole, we have to vote for Joe Biden because he's a humanitarian and we got to think about the migrants, we got to think about, the situation is even worse now that we voted for Joe Biden. And again, there's a interesting conversation to be had about this lesser of two evils. I'll get to that. And then, of course, we all know the answer to this, but it's worth asking anyway. Are the Justice Democrats, are Bernie Sanders, are these elected progressives going to lift a finger to do anything about this? My answer, my guess, is, as you'd expect, is no. So I'll get into all of that a little bit later in the video. But first, you all already know the deal. If you're able to contribute to the show, because you guys help fund the show. If you're able to contribute financially, I have the links to Patreon in the About page of the YouTube channel. I also have links to PayPal in the About page of the YouTube channel if you feel more comfortable doing a one-time contribution. And on Patreon, I don't post any Patreon exclusive content. It's just because I feel like everybody should have access to the videos I make, regardless if you can pay or not. So it's just a way to help support the show. I also have a GoFundMe for equipment so we can make upgrades to the show and improve the quality and things like that. And I'm also starting my freelance web design business. I am a web designer. I've trained in web design for years. I've practiced for years. I've built websites for years. I took some time off of that. It feels like a lifetime ago, but I'm getting back into it. I've recently put up my website. So the link to my website, if you are interested in my services, are in the About page of the YouTube channel. They're also, all the links that I just mentioned are going to be in the description page of this video. So just where you normally find links, just click the arrow and you'll find the links to all those the things that I just mentioned earlier. So yeah, if you need a website, online store, if you have like some type of service or product you sell, I'm your guy. I can help build a website and make it easier for your customers to find you and make transactions quicker and have automated processing, payment processing, and all those things. So just let me know. Go to my website and you could contact me there. So now back to this story. Again, so Joe Biden is asking for $715 billion to fund the war machine, to fund U.S. imperialism. And so what this basically proves that no matter how bad the country is falling apart, no matter how decrepit and just hellish the conditions are in this country, the top priority of our government will always be to make sure that the defense contractors and the U.S. war machine, the Western imperialist war machine, always has more than enough money. Make sure that they always have a blank check. Because if the worst emergency in U.S. history, where we're in the middle of a pandemic and worst economic crisis in history, if that doesn't make you, as a lawmaker, think that we need to redirect funds, reallocate funds to places where they're more needed, if that doesn't make you think we need to cut the Pentagon budget, then you will never, ever, at any time, say, all right, you know what, I think we should cut the Pentagon budget. Because in reality, it shouldn't be anywhere. It should be, cutting it in half isn't even a reasonable position, to be honest with you. We spend more than the next 10 biggest militaries on the planet combined. We spend more than them. So if we were to cut it in half, we would still have the biggest military on the planet by far. So this is all just gratuitous spending to fund the war machine and to fund interventions in other countries so we can invade and occupy other countries and do regime change in other countries. That's what this money is for. So you want to talk about, if there was anything, if there was ever unnecessary spending that should be the first to go, it's that. It's funding the imperialism. It's funding the war machine. It's funding genocide for profit. Because we're going to take that money and we're going to use it to buy missiles so that we can keep bombing the Syrian government illegally, just like Joe Biden did as soon as he came into the White House. We're going to take that money and help the Saudis do a genocide and massacre in Yemen, as we've been doing since the Obama administration. And Joe Biden was lying earlier in his administration, and he was pretending like, oh, the U.S. is going to end our involvement in Yemen. That's a lie. We're still involved. We're still backing this massacre that Saudi Arabia is at the behest of Saudi Arabia. So that's where this money is going to go to. Bombing half the hospitals, making sure that half the hospitals aren't even operational in Yemen because U.S. weapons and U.S. Military operations help target those facilities. destroy Yemen's infrastructure. That's where this money in this Pentagon budget is going to go to. You remember those stories about how Pentagon-backed rebels in Syria were fighting with CIA-backed rebels in Syria? Both of them jihadists, both terrorist groups aligned with head choppers like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Both funded by the U.S. and both fighting for each other. That's the type of bullshit that this Pentagon budget is going to fund. Again, while we're in the middle of our own emergency here in the United States, we're going to go create unnecessary crises in other countries with this money. This money is going to go towards continuing the war in Afghanistan, which, by the way, over a year ago, we learned from the people, in their own words, the people who have overseen this war from the beginning, back towards the Bush administration, in their own words saying, we have no idea what we're doing in Afghanistan. There is no end goal here. We don't even know who our enemy is. We're just aimlessly dropping bombs, massacring civilians, and covering it up. That's what we're doing there in Afghanistan with this money. And Joe Biden is going to take this money, and all the Democrats, they're going to take this money and continue just blank check for this genocide that's been going on, this wanton genocide that's been going on in Afghanistan since 2001, with absolutely no plans to end it. Just fund it to the end of time, unabated, no questions asked. So this is really disgusting. And of course, like I mentioned, all the domestic problems here at home. 40 million, we're going to have an eviction crisis in this country. There is no way around it. We're already kind of in an eviction crisis because while the COVID bans on eviction, the moratoriums on eviction, they've been in place. There have been evictions been going on for months since last year. If Joe Biden and the Democrats cut the Pentagon budget in half and use that money to fund back rent and to fund missed mortgage payments, they would have enough money to take care of all of to cancel all the rent and mortgage debts that have accrued since this crisis started. They would have enough money to do that just by taking it out of the Pentagon budget alone. They won't do that. That's not even in consideration. Again, providing healthcare to our citizens in the middle of a pandemic. They won't even consider doing that. But the blank check for the military industrial complex, no questions asked. We got that. And of course, the lesser of two evils debate. I have to say, the framing the discussion every election cycle as the lesser of two evils is really a masterful play by the Democratic Party. Because especially if you don't follow politics closely, it is very easy, especially with the unrelenting propaganda from the media and celebrities and things like that about how the Democrats are lesser two evils. It's very easy to convince people that the Republicans are the boogeyman and that there's who everybody should be afraid of. And so if you can do that easily, then people really don't have an option other than voting for the Democrats. But I mean, we can have a whole argument about the lesser of two evils, because what's always left out of that conversation is how the insidious nature of the Democratic Party and the way that they're able to propagandize the country. They're better at doing that. They're better at getting the country to accept horrific corporatist neoliberal policies than the Republicans are. So in a way, it gives them leeway to do even worse shit than the Republicans and get praised for it at the same time. So we can have a whole argument about who the lesser of two evils really is. But like I said, for most people in this country who don't follow this closely, that's a little too in the weeds for them. So like I said, it's easy. The Trump bad narrative it lands. But instead of this really ridiculous argument about like literally one concentration camp less, which honestly is funny that you know the one concentration camp less argument is usually made to vote for the Democrats. It's funny that because now that Democrats in control, they're actually building more concentration camps than when the Republicans were in control. So that's just a funny thing. But that argument is always made in some way on climate change. Yeah, Joe Biden isn't going to do what we need to address the climate crisis, but it's better than Trump, so they say. Oh, yeah, Joe Biden might not have all the answers on immigration, but he's definitely going to treat them better than Trump. So this is just a never-ending who's the tallest kid in kindergarten competition, and it just completely misses, like, and while everybody's doing that for the entire election cycle, it distracts from the questions we really should be asking, which is, do they meet the standards of somebody you should be supporting? And if you want to talk about, who's better, who's worse, that's irrelevant if neither of them are acceptable. To me, voting for a war criminal isn't acceptable. Voting for somebody who's going to overthrow governments, destabilize regions, lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands and millions of people, I'm never going to vote for that. That's never going to be an acceptable option, even if you point to me and tell me there's going to be a worse war criminal. And the same with the concentration camps, the same with climate change, the same with the climate crisis. You can say Joe Biden's better on the issue. I wouldn't, because like I said, he has a 40-year record of destroying the environment. But does that mean anything if whether you vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats or you vote for Republicans? Does it mean anything if Joe Biden is slightly better, if at the end of the day, his policies, we know his agenda is going to continue us on the path of climate catastrophe or climate apocalypse? Well, then if we're going to face climate apocalypse either way, I don't think we should just, I think it's a giant waste of time to be sitting around arguing about who is slightly less shitty on this issue. And the same with the imperialism, the same with the Pentagon budget. Now you had so many people talking about Joe Biden's the lesser of two evils. Well, now he's going to give even more money to the war machine than Donald Trump did. That's what lesser of two evils gets you. Gets you more concentration camps, gets you more kids in cages, and it gets you more money being funneled to imperialism while we're in the worst emergency in U.S. history. And the question, it should be asked, what are the Justice Democrats going to do about it? What is Bernie Sanders going to do about it? And clearly, they aren't going to do anything. They haven't lifted a finger to oppose the neoliberal agenda of the Democratic Party to this point. And if they haven't done it yet, I don't expect them to do it anytime further from now. But this is going to be even worse. And this is going to just really show that they aren't as oppositional to imperialism as they should be. Because now it's their party, complete control of government. So what are they going to do? Are they going to, they could be raising hell about it, doing interviews about it, calling Joe Biden a warmonger, an imperialist, and pointing out the ties that his administration has to the defense industry. They could be doing all of that. They could be saying, let's do some anti-war protests and do some strikes, and let's shut some shit down until the Democrats agree to cut the Pentagon budget and use that money here at home instead. They could do that. They won't do it. They won't. So, I mean, if you're holding your breath, if you're waiting for the Justice Democrats to take a stand on this and draw a line and really have a knockdown, drag out fight, you might as well be waiting for any regular ass corporate Democrat, regular ass establishment Democrat to do it, because you have basically the same chance of it happening. It's not going to happen. So there we go. Funding more imperialism, using that's what the lesser of two evils got you.